Now, I have to be honest with you all this morning. After Delesling Kennebrew's sermon last week, I was like, why didn't we have Kevin preach the week after? And there was a big sort of, because I don't know if you saw it, but there was a moment in the service where I swear tongues of fire were coming down and resting. It was Pentecost all over again, and she opened with that beautiful prayer. I'm so thankful for the ministry and work of our regional minister for New and Transforming Church, and for the gifts that she brings to the denomination, and the incredible word that she shared with us last weekend, and we will continue to pass on our thanksgiving to her. Our text this morning comes from the Gospel according to Luke, starting in chapter 9, verse 1. Hear these words. Then Jesus called the 12 together and gave them power and authority over all demons and to cure diseases. And he sent them out to proclaim the kingdom of God and to heal. He said to them, "Take nothing for your journey, no staff, nor bag, nor bread, nor money, not even an extra tunic. Whatever house you enter, stay there and leave from there. Wherever they do not welcome you, as you are leaving that town, shake the dust off your feet as a testimony against them." So they departed and went through the villages, bringing the good news and curing diseases everywhere. Ernest Hemingway once wrote, "The best way to find if you can trust someone is to trust them." One of my recent goals and dreams has been to hike portions of the Appalachian Trail. Now, I have been introduced to it a couple of summers ago. Me and my family, we went out to Tennessee and Kentucky, and we got on, and we had the kids with us, so we only made it like a mile or so on the Appalachian Trail, but it was so incredibly beautiful, and I felt like I was ready for a challenge. And I'm a goal setter. I like to set dreams and goals. I like to have some sort of plan out there in the future that I am working to. It fuels me and drives me to stretch myself. I remember one year I thought, hey, doing a triathlon would be a great thing. And so I set that goal. And then I was like on mile 12 of the bike ride and was like, why did I set this goal? Because I still had to run 6 miles after that was over. But it's these challenges that just, I don't know, they give me a sense of purpose and direction. And so with any goal or dream that I set, I begin to do research. Now, I know that sounds super not cool, but that is where I begin. I begin to read and learn and discover what are some of the challenges facing those who have decided to hike the Appalachian Trail. Now, the trail itself is over 2,000 miles long, stretching up and down the eastern part of the U.S. It goes from Georgia all the way up to Maine. It is quite the feat. And people have done it. They have hiked it through. They call it a through hike. They begin maybe from the south and go to the north, or vice versa, depending on what they're feeling. And they do it. It takes anywhere from 2 to 6 months. In my case, it would take like a year and a half, and I don't got time for that. So I'm not doing that right in that way. But you can do section hiking, where you go and you find a section that you want to go through, and then you set out. And I was reading and researching and learning a little bit more. There are some tips for those who want to do these kind of hikes. The first is you can get lost. Like, that's a thing. People get lost on the trail. And already my anxiety level is rising, because I don't like the feeling of being lost. It's terrifying, and I don't really particularly long for that to happen. So I've tried to figure out, okay, what are some tips and tricks to keep me from being lost? And they give you at least 4. The first is always look for those white blaze markers. They are white paint on these trees every few feet or so. That means you're on the right track. And also look on the ground, because every once in a while, hikers have set up cairns. Cairns are piles of rocks that are set up on each other to serve as way markers. If you come across a cairn, you know that a turn is coming pretty soon thereafter. So be on the lookout for cairns. Also, if you meet someone on the trail, talk to them. Ask them, what's up ahead? Or what challenges do I have to face on the next stretch of trail? And they will talk to you, and they will tell you, and they will help guide you along the way. And finally, if you find yourself off the trail or uncertain where you are, don't panic. Stop what you're doing. Retrace your steps. Make your way back to the trail and begin again. Now, I was struck as I was reading these tips and tricks how many of them required trust in people that you had never met. You have to trust that people have set up a pile of rocks that are meant to guide you and help you rather than distract you or lead you astray. You have to trust people that you meet along the way, that they're going to give you solid advice so that you don't misstep or miss the mark. You have to trust in people. In fact, I've heard stories where people have been cut out in storms, and so they shelter together, sometimes sharing the same tent or the same shelter along the trail, and they've slept there next to strangers. Now, all of that might sound fine for some of you, but for me, no thank you. I trust a handful of people in this world, and they are none of them hiking the Appalachian Trail. In the beginning, they were disciples. They were learners. They had felt this call, this connection with Jesus, and so they were following him, shadowing him, learning from him. They would watch as he would sit down and talk with little children. They would listen in as he would preach a sermon. They would watch from afar as he was curing those faced with disease and sickness. And as he was listening to the stories of those who had been pushed to the margins, they were learning and watching. They were observing. They were disciples. A group of people, men and women, longing to learn from this teacher. And he taught them about this mysterious kingdom of God. But more than that, more than just teaching them by words, he showed them. He led them not just by his words, but by his actions as well. He healed, he fed, he listened, he loved, he accepted, he challenged, and at times he even rebelled against the status quo of the day. He was a teacher like no other. And those disciples were drawn to the message of hope and love that he was sharing, and so they followed him. They listened to him as he preached the Sermon on the Plain earlier in the Gospel of Luke, where he told them, "Blessed are the hungry, for they will be filled. Blessed are the poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are those who weep, for you will laugh." Now, they didn't understand these words at first. How could they? They're paradoxical. Blessed are those who are hungry, for they will be filled, but they're hungry. How will they be filled? Blessed are the poor, for they will inherit a kingdom. How? They have no power, no prestige, no wealth. How can they possibly inherit a kingdom? Blessed are those who weep, for they will laugh. They're heartbroken. Jesus, how can this be? They didn't understand what he was teaching them about the power and the love and the breadth and the depth of the kingdom of God that had the ability to turn the world upside down, that to shift the status quo. But the seeds were planted in their hearts and their minds, and they began to grow and take shape until eventually a tree began to sprout that would bear good fruit and nourish others in the community. And so when the time came that Jesus turned to those disciples who had been learning and listening and living alongside their teacher, a time came where he said, "Now it is time for you to go. Go. I want you to go into the villages around the community, and I want you to teach them what I've taught you. I want you to heal. I want you to love. I want you to feed. Do what I do. Listen to them. Care for them. Love them. Just go. Take this good news to the world around you. And he sends them out. No longer are they disciples. They are apostles. From the Greek word apostolos, to send forth, to go out, to take what it is that you have learned and now share it with the world around you. They were apostles. They were the sent out ones, not the play it safe ones, not the comfortable ones, not the this is the way it's always been ones. They were the sent out ones. They were the ones that called to challenge the way things were. And by the way, don't take anything for your journey. No walking stick. Don't take any luggage. No trail mix. No currency or credit card. No fresh underwear. Just go. Just go. You have everything you need. Trust me. Now, this is the part of the story where I get a little anxious. Sure, when I was younger, I was full of adventure and willing to do things that were slightly dangerous and unusual. And let's be honest, I wasn't a good preparer in my younger days. Not a good planner. I felt like I could survive on less, and it all seemed somewhat appealing. I didn't mind getting in the car and driving across country on a whim because, hey, it'll work out. And sometimes it did. Most often it didn't. These days, I feel like I've learned from those experiences. I like security. I like safety. I like the feeling of having a well-planned itinerary. Okay, well, let's face it, a well-planned itinerary that Rebecca has made. I like having a plan. And enough funds to know that I can get there and back again, safely, securely. Trust me? Trust me, please. I trust in preparation and planning. I trust in a steady income. I trust in my own hometown, my peeps, my people, the ones I know will be there for me through thick and thin. I trust the neighbor I know, not the stranger I don't know. This is the challenge of being an apostle, a sent out ones, rather than a disciple. Jesus is asking those first apostles to trust him, trust in God, to trust that everything will work out, to trust that God has your back. Jesus' strange task for these early disciples were to practice love of stranger, not love of neighbor. That is the meaning of hospitality, not love of the people you know, but love of the ones you don't. It's easy to love those we know or to have a kinship with them, but to head out into the wide world to practice love with complete strangers and even to trust them, wow, that's a challenge. Fred Craddock suggests, had they gone with money and extra provisions, their witness would have been undercut by such an evident lack of faith in God and a trust in the hospitality of the people they would meet. Perhaps to be about the kingdom of God, the work of the kingdom, it requires both faith in God and trust in others. There was a saying in my freshman dorm there on the campus of Southwest Baptist University, I won the lottery. There was one dorm, one guy's dorm on campus that had air conditioning. And Landon Hall was it. And wouldn't you know it, it was first filled up with all the athletes, all the sports players. They had first crack at that dorm. But you could put your name on a list, and maybe if you were lucky enough, you would get into that dorm. And I was graced beyond grace because I had air conditioning that summer. That spring semester, that whole year. I enjoyed the air conditioning, and I enjoyed getting to know my new neighbors up and down the halls and on the different floors. I didn't play sports. That wasn't my thing. I liked to watch. I was a good spectator. I could cheer really loud, if you can guess. But it wasn't my thing to play. But they had some different ways of living, different sayings that I picked up on along my time there. And one of the things they kept repeating over and over again that freshman year, it must have been their motto for each team: don't talk about it, be about it. Don't talk about it, be about it. Now, I think what they were saying at the time was, we are going to have an undefeated season. We're not just going to talk about it, we are going to work hard and do whatever it takes to live into that reality. They didn't, by the way, but they tried, and they were living it. They believed it so hard. They were doing their utmost best to live into the thing which they believed. And it stuck with me. Don't talk about it, be about it. I had heard other phrases too, like walk the walk, talk the talk. We want to have those in line with one another. But this phrase, don't talk about it, be about it, stuck with me. These past few weeks, we've been listening to what it means to be a people of the parentheses, the Christian church, parentheses, disciples of Christ. We are a denomination where we believe in essentials unity, in non-essentials liberty or freedom, and in all things charity. We are a denomination where we believe in the deep connection between our faith and God's good creation, that it is our responsibility to take care of the world around us, and we have been charged as stewards of that world to faithfully live out that care. We are a denomination that is called to be exactly who God has called us to be. This is us, Dr. Kennebrew shared with us. We are the disciples of Christ. We think critically. We welcome openly. We love deeply. We believe strongly, and everything else is a wonderful mystery that we're figuring out together, that we're living in together. Perhaps in this moment you're thinking, Matthew's preaching a sermon about us going and doing things, being involved in the community. But I don't need to preach that sermon. You're doing it, friends. Like those first disciples, those first apostles being sent out, you are in this community and beyond. You're partnering with Lee Summit Social Services. You're at Prodeo. You're feeding people at Micah Ministry. You're volunteering for Red Bags and providing Christmas for children and families who might not have one otherwise. You are, wherever I go in this community, I see one or two or three of you working hard and faithfully to make sure the people of this community and the world beyond know that there is a church, there is a people who cares about them. You are there. Could we be doing more? Absolutely. Should we? Yes, we should. We should learn what that means and listen to our neighbors and meet them where they're at. Absolutely. But what I'm preaching about this morning is maybe that other challenging piece of today's text. The part about trusting. Trusting in God. Trusting in one another. Trusting in strangers. There is so much fear and skepticism and distrust in our world today. And it is separating us. It is preventing us from connecting with one another on a basic human spiritual level and loving them with the love that God has shared with each of us and that we know lives in their hearts as much as it does in ours. I'm not talking about putting ourselves in undue risk or in danger. There are people in this world that have broken our trust, and we should protect ourselves and protect them from themselves. But that doesn't mean everyone is untrustworthy. The best way to trust someone is to just trust them. What would our world look like? Our community look like? Our politics look like? Our religion look like if we started with trust? If we started from a place of love, not a place of fear? If we trusted that God would be part of the process of community and caring and healing and connecting, that God would be there wherever the trail led us, bringing about something that seems quite impossible, even feeling lost at times, but knowing, trusting that God was there. Our forebearers, those who started the Christian church, Disciples of Christ, they had no idea what the implication of an open table would be. Wait, you mean we're going to welcome everyone at the table? Everyone can take part in communion? Surely not those who don't believe. Surely not those who don't belong to our denomination, right? We've got to draw a line somewhere. Surely not those ... Yeah. Those. That's what it means to have an open table. It means open. Not partially open, not mostly open, but open. They had no idea where we would go when we said we would welcome all. Wait, you mean all? You mean everyone? Yeah. That's what all means. They had no idea where we would go with our relationship with God and with others, and that we would become the kind of people that we are becoming, because you can't see all ends from the point of the trail you're on. All you can do is trust that there are markers along the way. That there are people who are going to come into your life that you can ask for help. We never really know where the trail leads, especially if you've never walked it before. We trust. We trust in God. We trust in each other. We trust in the kindness and love of strangers because it exists despite what you've been told. We do our best on this journey we're on, and God does what God does best. Shows up. But we can't just talk about it, friends. We have to be about it. So, disciples, where are we headed? Or should I say, apostles, you sent out ones. Not you comfortable ones. Not you, this is how we've always done it ones. You sent out ones. Where are we going next? I don't know. But I trust that you know what you're doing. And if you don't, I know that God does. And together, we'll get there.